Oh, hey everybody, Paddy here. This is my book. It's called This Is The Fucking News. It's got 297 fucking swear words in it. I say fucking it 297 fucking times. Wanted to make it 298, but someone took one of the fucking things out. But anyway, I've been here. This is the fucking news, and this is the fucking Mandate podcast. So you better listen and check out my book if you get a chance.
Mandate. Welcome to Mandate, where we navigate fresh perspectives and nothing is off the table. Tonight's guest is not from Tamaki Makaurau. In fact, he's from New Plymouth, the beautiful New Plymouth. But now he resides in the 04 windy Wellington Hurricanes territory. The man is an incredible individual who happens to be one of New Zealand's prolific and finest journalists. So he started his journalism career working graveyard shift at New Zealand Herald. Also, the man kind of moved up to becoming a TV journalist, and also then becoming a political journalist, and then ending up to being a political editor for 3 News. But the man is just an amazing individual. But you recognise some of the work that he's done. You see him in 2014, the viral skit, University of Auckland Law School, but also 2019, you remember him on the documentary, the cannabis documentary, and also 2021, the man was part of another script, the They Are Us script, involving the Christchurch mosque shootings. Please put your hands together for the one and only Patrick, aka Paddy Gower!
Holy heck, that was the best intro ever. I've written a book and it wasn't that good about my life.
And the book, I've got to mention, the book, the man's got a book coming up very soon. It's called This Is The Fucking News. Sorry, This Is The Fucking News.
This is the fucking news.
Yes.
I'm going to say that a few times tonight. Is that all good?
Yeah, all good.
Need to keep one of those counters of every time we say this is the fucking news. Yeah, ding, ding, ding. This is the fucking news. Ding.
Oh man, Paddy, it's an absolute privilege to have you join us at the table, brother.
Oh, privilege is all mine because I've been watching and listening to Mandate, and I love your kaupapa, so I was keen to come out here and contribute to it. Awesome,
appreciate it, brother. But I thought just start the ball rolling, because obviously 2014 hasn't been the best year in terms of journalism. Obviously, a lot of your colleagues have lost their jobs, and obviously Newshub and so forth. But I just wanted to get it from you, from the horse's mouth. How has that impacted you, and how are you feeling? What have you been up to since then?
Yeah, it was pretty crushing, bro, to be honest, because, I've been working as a journalist or in news for 25 years. So all my adult life, that was the only thing that I ever knew. So it's like my tribe, it's my whānau, it's my family, my friends, everything is wrapped up all in being a journalist, right? And I'd actually been at TV3 doing it for 14 years. So, basically over half of my adult life has been in that building, and all of my adult life has been working as a journo. So to sort of turn up to work one day in February this year and then have it ripped, ripped to pieces just in one go, just go into a meeting and bang, we're closing you guys down and it's all over and everyone's crying and doesn't know what's happening. It's incredibly confusing. As you can imagine, it's just mind-blowing. To have, all of your, what happened that day, all of my dreams were ripped up, all of my plans were ripped up, all of my friends' lives were turned upside down, just like that, bang. Nothing like that had really ever happened to me before. It was just, whoa, what do I do now? And where do I go? And how do I start again? And what do I grab onto? So yeah, gutting, is, I know everyone says, oh, that was gutting, but actually it was gutting. It felt like it just felt like I'd had my guts ripped out of me. Yeah.
Damn, man. So where do you pivot now? So obviously the book,
bro. Well,
so where are you pivoting now? And are you still kind of thinking? Obviously, you got a new project happening. Obviously, your new book. But so, what have you been doing in the woodworks, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I'd started the book last year, and at the time, I was just like, "Whoa, man, I'm so crazy doing a book. Like, what am I doing? I'm so busy here. I've got, I got my Patrick Gower on documentaries, and I was doing one down in Antarctica, and I'd just done the Paddy Gower Has Issues show. The election had been on, and then at the end of the year, I'm like, oh, got to do this book. I signed the contract and everything. This is crazy. but something was obviously saying, hey, you better do this book, man, because come February next year, you're going to need something like, like something was looking down on me basically and saying, hey, you're going to need something. So here I was working away on the book thinking this is nuts. But actually it's turned out to be, as soon as Newshub ended, actually I was sitting in that meeting and the book was pretty much finished, and I was just sitting there, there was a lot to run through, like, how am I going to continue to pay the mortgage? What am I going to do next? Where am I going to get a job? Like, what am I going to do? And then the other thing that was through my mind was like, shivers, I better write another bloody chapter to this bloody book, because it was like, this book's getting updated right in front of my eyes, as the guy's, firing my ass, because that's what happened. Guy just came in, working for a company called Warner Brothers, American company. Guy came in from Singapore, bang, just me and all my mates, just boom, everything blown up. So I'm sitting there going, okay, there's a lot to figure out here, including probably one of the easiest things was to write another chapter to the book that was sort of sitting there on the slate. But the awesome thing is now it's coming out, and it sort of fits because I'm sort of 25 years in, and I'm trying to start again, and I'm sort of wrapped up those other 25 years in this book, and now I'm trying to sort of find a way out of this crap that I'm in, and boost out of this. So yeah, I've hooked up a new role at Stuff, and I'm going to be focusing on something that I think you guys show when you do the podcast, optimism, and positive journalism, and things that can inspire people and make them happy, because why not? Yeah, why not? I think the world needs it.
Yeah.
Why don't we see that already? Is there a reason you can maybe, with your experience?
Yeah, I think you can. I've been a journo for 25 years, and honestly, bro, I haven't counted it up, but I would have covered over 100 murders, I reckon, in that time. At least, or over 100 incidents where people have died or come to something grim in that time. Do you know what I mean? And I also spent 10 years of that time in Parliament, working as a political reporter, which is just insane. It's like combat without actually hitting people. It's just a very vicious kill or be killed kind of world technically. It's very, very confrontational. And so I've seen all of the other different types of news, and there's a reason why we have those things. We've got to report on politics. We've got to, if there's an awful crime or something, we've got to report on it and learn from it and everything. But yeah, and there always have been hopeful stories in the news. But I think humans are, because you can see all the clicks and everything behind the scenes, and I'm working at Stuff, and you can see what people are watching and clicking on every week, and it's not the happy stuff. For some reason, humans are attracted to bad things happening to people or whatever, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The news feeds it, the people click on it. The news feeds it, the people click on it, and we've just got to find ways. We don't have to. I'm not saying we need to stop the bad news or hide the bad news or stop doing it. And my colleagues will keep doing it and exposing wrongs that need to be exposed and that kind of thing. But I'm just trying to. I guess I'm trying to be like the Mandate podcast of the media world, just a little bit of happiness in the corner. Hey,
That's cool.
It doesn't hurt, does it? Hey, doesn't hurt. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, so, and it's been interesting watching podcasts and different things over the last few years. You learn that actually, people, they want to be able to learn some stuff off others. They can go through hard times, but if you watch what a lot of podcasts like Mandate are putting, what you guys have been doing is you've been putting out guys that have got lessons for others, from their life, and you can watch it and you can pick up something and go, oh shit, was that dude did that? That's pretty awesome.
Cool.
And yeah, so basically, long story short, Paddy's new project is copying you.
So loud.
Just took me a long time to work around to that.
Run around.
Yeah. It took a long time. Yeah.
That is cool, Paddy.
That's cool.
And just going back to like that feeling of like the world ending almost. Like I imagine, well, two things. You talked about your colleagues and that sort of family dynamic there. There must have been a lot of anger and frustration and loyalty where it must be tough to move on or like some people to move on quickly and have to change your social setting, or to, you know, be working or looking for work where you may not be with this family that you've built?
Totally.
What was that like?
Totally, man. And that's one of the real sort of tragedies of it all is, you know, we're working like a family at TV3 there, and then we, you know, get the bad news, and we still had 6 months together. It was like a countdown clock ticking, you know, and we get to spend the time together and put the news out and see things out. But now, you know, we're not really going to see each other ever again. You know, maybe there'll be a reunion one day, and some people will come and some people won't, and you know, that's that. And it's, for me now, it's just like a memory, and it doesn't seem real. At the same, and then, you know, some people get jobs and move on over here, and some people move on over there, and some people go overseas, and some people are getting out of journalism altogether, and we're just separating, and it does have that feeling of grief about it, you know, like things are never going to be the same again. And then at the same time, hey, it's just a job, and you've got to get out and move on and get another one and start bringing the money in and start feeding the house and all of that sort of thing, you know, and you've got to put it behind you, but you can't as well. So it's a weird sensation. It's just a job, but it's not just a job, you know, and it's that old saying, no one's actually died, you know, and no one has died. Like, that's awesome. We just all lost our jobs. That's cool. We get to go and live on and be happy and safe, and we should be happy about that, you know. But then you also go, well, you know, we've lost our contact with each other. So it's a sort of it's a funny sort of sensation to kind of deal with. You know, you're kind of like constantly juggling that sort of aspect of it. So yeah, it is hard to think, oh yeah, we just won't be together again. Yeah, we won't be together again, and that is a hard thing to take, mate.
That's a really good insight, because I think sometimes we always assume that things will never change, that, you know, the cycle that we're in is good, but seasons always change, and we never know when our season will change. And just to add on to your insight there, I imagine there are some very, very unique lessons that can only come through certain channels or certain experiences. What were some of the unique lessons and experiences that you had as a result of this that you feel totally will enrich your life going forward?
I think, you know, the one thing that I learned from the closure of Newshub was that when you're part of a group of people with a shared purpose, and you're moving to something bigger than all of you put together, when you're like, you know, because TV3 and Newshub, like, we were creating something for people to watch and enjoy, and we were all working together, the walkers all going in one direction to make something that's for other people and is bigger than you. And when you're part of something that is trying to create something bigger than, you know, it's the old saying, bigger than the sum of the parts. When you try to create something bigger for other people, it's an amazing feeling to be part of. You know, teamwork is such an awesome and enriching thing. And when you're doing something like TV3, when you're like part of New Zealand history, and you're literally reflecting what's happening out in society with other people who want to do it together, it's just awesome. And, you know, one of the things about working in TV, it's like working in here when you're doing the podcast. Look at, you know, people can't see it, but there's a big team out behind you. You've got to turn on all the lights. You've got to bring people in. You've got to do all this stuff and get it going and get the podcast up, and people get to share it. And that's part of it. It's that team of creating something with other people, where one person does the presenting, like this guy's intro. We're like, whoa, okay, all right, we'll move over, like, you know, and but other people got to turn the lights on and make the sound work and make sure the mics are on and all of this sort of thing, and it all comes together. And then you've got the Mandate podcast, and that's awesome. You know, TV3 was the same. It took all sorts of different people to get it going and get it on air, and it's kind of like a kind of magic. And I think that's what I learned. You know, when you have something that's good and you complain all the time about different parts of it and whatnot, you know, I think TV3 taught me is sometimes if you're making magic, then you should just be really happy with what you've got. And I sometimes wish, I should never ever have complained about one single moment of my 14 years at TV3, because I complained about a lot of things, and I was a dick about a lot of things, and I was annoying to other people to work with a lot of the time. And I look back at it and I'm like, I wish I wasn't like that, because actually I was in a form of paradise, and I should have been so thankful for it, because it doesn't last forever.
Mate,
Love it.
mate.
You guys are making me feel a little deep.
Mate, it's good.
Bloody mandate. Come on, I want to mandate. Let's all go.
Yeah, I can totally understand, Paddy, in terms of obviously there's a massive team involved. You got everyone together. Everyone's in this cog and this machine, and everyone is kind of like an oiled machine. But when it's all gone, and you kind of like you're by yourself now, so to speak. You're kind of going solo now.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much the new catalyst for change. And so I'm talking about in terms of what are you doing right now in this present time. How do you see journalism now? What's the impact and what's the change? What do you see in the near future, or even right now, the difference? And what can you see that is it going to be better, or do you feel like there's some hardships that's going to occur?
No, I think journalism is going through a hard time at the moment. Obviously, there's a whole lot of reasons for that. There's the economy, there's technology, there's social media. Everything is sort of changing. Everything, and society's changing as well. And it's really hard for older forms of media to get a grip on what's happening. And that's what happened to Newshub in a lot of different ways. It's really complex what happened there, but it was just a whole lot of things happening at once, and it just the pressure was too much on it. But I think there's so much to look forward with possibility in terms of media, and I don't want to give you guys too many big ups, but look at what you can do in here. Look at what you've created in this room in the last couple of years. You can create ways of people listening and watching to things. With it's not easy, but it's doable for anyone. You don't have to be a big TV station owned by a couple of Americans, Warner Brothers or whatever. You can be the Mandate podcast and get important messages out. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about the media is it's changing, but a lot of people can get into it now and do it themselves. Or, it doesn't have to just be the big boys. And that is very, very exciting for us. There's not a lack of people wanting to be communicated with. There's difficulty in the old ways of doing that, but the number of people who want to communicate and be connected is huge. And sometimes we feel, they're all leaving, we can't find them. Well, we've just got to learn how to find them. And there's a problem with the media reaching them. There's not a problem with people wanting to be connected out there. In fact, if you talk with people deeply, they want to be more connected. Yeah. They actually want to be more connected. And so that's the challenge for us, is to connect with them. Yeah. Awesome. So I think tough times at the moment, but lots of opportunities ahead.
That's awesome, mate. But also, obviously, because people know you. They know you from on the screen. Oh, this Patrick Gower.
Well, they know me fucking for this is the fucking news in the library. That's all people fucking know me for, mate. I had to write a whole bloody book, mate. The reason I wrote this bloody book, mate, is because everyone's just like, this is the fucking news. This is the fucking news. And I was just like, hey, I've actually done way more shit than that. So next time someone says it to me, they're like, hey, the fucking news. I'll say, hang on, I've actually done a whole bloody book of my rest of my life, because that's all anyone seems to know me about, So I'll just say, here you go. So I'm just going to walk around with these, and every time someone does it, I'm going to go, read this. There's more to me than the fucking news. That was the only motivation.
Good.
Yeah.
What's the book called?
The fucking news.
It was a bit. You talked about connection, Paddy. I like you talked about connection, obviously, in social media and so forth. But people obviously they see face value that, that's Patrick Gower, he's the guy, the journalist, the political editor, and so forth. But I'm wanting to assume, because I don't want to assume, that people are like, who is actual Paddy Gower? Who is the actual man behind the journalism, behind the TV screen, behind all that stuff? Yeah,
that's a good question. And, even though I've written a book and people will read it and see that I've done lots of exciting stuff and all of that, it's really a book about a normal person, because, I'm just a normal guy as well. I'm just like you three, and I've written a lot about my own personal struggles in there, and like a lot of people, I've had struggles like about the way that I look. And when I was growing up, people used to say that I was ugly, and I had big buck teeth, and then I had acne, and then my face started to change like it is today and stuff like that. And I used to get a hard time from people. And it was something that I started to carry around in my life. You know, it took away my self-confidence. Because anybody who's watching or listening to this will know that, you know, when people say things about your looks, it can really hurt you. And, you know, and there'll be people watching this going, far out, yeah, I know what Paddy's saying. And, you know, I carried that a lot through my life. And you know, that meant that it's caused other problems for me. You know, I became an alcoholic. I started to drink when I was about 15 years old, and it gave me a lot more confidence when I went to parties or whatever, and I just felt like a different person, I felt like I wasn't an ugly motherfucker or whatever. And that, you know, alcohol let me do that. But it also became something that really held me back later in life. You know, I just get fucking pissed all the time. Sorry about my language, by the way. It just comes out. Yeah. You know, just getting pissed all the time, and, you know, waking up hungover and forgetting all the shit that happened the night before and all this sort of jazz, you know, and it was just really holding me back in my life, even though I had a successful career, and I was just boozing a lot. And a lot of it came back to my feelings from earlier in life about, you know, I'd started drinking because it made me feel better about the way I looked or whatever. And then I moved all the way through my life, and 30 years later, and I'm still drinking. I've forgotten all those worries about back in the day, but for some reason I've still got the alcohol in my life, and actually it's, you know, it's causing me massive problems, and I don't need that shit anymore. You know, long story short, I gave up drinking over 1,000 days ago. I've been sober for 1,000 plus days now.
Awesome.
And that's been awesome for me. But yeah, you know, you're asking, oh, you know, who's the real Paddy? Well, the real Paddy is someone who struggles with self-confidence about basic things like the way that he looks. He's someone who's struggled with an addiction, you know, and there'll be a lot of people watching this who are struggling with some form of addiction, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, that's another one of the things, you know, we've all got different forms of addictions, most of us, and you can struggle with those as well, you know, and I've struggled with other things. Part of the reason this podcast got up and running was, you know, people were struggling in lockdown, you know, and I'd struggled actually with burnout through my job before lockdown. You know, just, you know, had a mental breakdown from working too hard and just being too into my job when I was in Parliament, and just felt like my brain was like a tea towel being twisted, you know, and I've written about that as well, because I think people need to see that, you know, that the fucking news guy is just like them with a whole lot of fucking problems that he carries around all the time, you know, and there's no shame in that.
I don't, man. And people just take it for granted. Obviously, they see you on TV and think, oh, well, that's Patrick Gower, and think that they have the right to just those comments. So obviously, even now, I can imagine even now, Paddy.
Yeah.
As we're talking now, people are going to still comment, blah blah blah, whatever.
Yeah. Well, you know, I get a lot of, you know, oh, he's got a good face for radio or whatever, which is sort of code for saying, oh yeah, he's an ugly motherfucker or something. And, you know, people can say whatever they like, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, you know, and you know, you just sort of, you're like, oh yeah, when is this shit ever going to end, you know? But at the same time, you know, I've learnt to communicate about that kind of thing, and I know that when I talk about it, there's a whole lot of people out there who are going, man, I know what that's like, and it is awesome that guy can talk like that, because that makes me feel better. Yeah. And that is a very, very powerful thing to be able to do, and I kind of think it's my duty to be able to do that, because, you know, I've got the skills and the platform and all of that to do it, and I should do it, and that's why I do it, and that's why I've written it in the book, to help others.
Damn, man,
that's so good. Cool. How does especially getting out of the addiction? Those first, I'm guessing, couple of weeks would have been super hard. What are the tricks that you would do to sort of kick those?
Bro, so anyway, so I give up drinking, right? I've been drinking for 30 years, right? Because I started drinking when I was 15. Yeah. My old lady goes away on a trip. It's my old man's birthday. He gets a keg. I get stuck into the keg. I end up spewing on the neighbour's lawn. Wake up in the morning. Old man's basically like, get a bit drunk last night, did you, mate? And I'm like, yeah. And that was that. That was the conversation, right? So from then on, you know, this is life in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Like, you start drinking pretty much every weekend from then on in. Start getting a dozen or sharing it with your mates. Then you start getting your own dozen. Then eventually you graduate to getting a box, and then you eventually graduate to getting a box and a bottle of spirits. And then by that stage, when I say graduate, you're about 18. Right. So, but this is a true story, right? And then you go on and on like that. So anyway, I decided to give up drinking. This is the strangest thing. I decided to give up drinking on December the 18th. Okay, December the 18th. Yes, coming up to Christmas and New Year's. So I white knuckled it through Christmas Day, and then I had to go around to my mate's house on Christmas Eve, and I was deciding on New Year's Eve. On New Year's Eve, which is the piss drinking Olympics. Okay, right? It's the piss drinking Olympics. I'm 1 week in to try and go sober, and I didn't know how long for. I was thinking, even if I could do a month, that would be amazing, But I've got to get through New Year's Eve, and so like a lot of Kiwi males. There's a biological 365-day clock inside me that when it gets around to December 31st, it is just basically saying it is time to hit the piss.
Party time.
It's just like this big sort of urge coming on, and I come around the corner to my mate's house, and I'd been down and I'd got every kind of non-alcoholic drink in existence, man. I had Coca-Cola, lemonade, ginger beer, kombucha, chamomile tea, all of these different, every sort of thing to help get me through. I come around the corner, it's a hot sunny day, it's about 3:30 afternoon, New Year's Eve, and I come around and there was 5 of my mates lined up in the sun, each of them sitting on a chili bin full of ice cold piss with their sunglasses on, talking about rugby or something. And I was like, fuck, this is going to be hard. I was like, this is going to be so fucking hard. But anyway, I white knuckled it through that night, and I woke up the next day without a hangover on New Year's Day for the first time in 30 years. Because if you think about it, I would have been hungover every time on New Year's Day since I started drinking, which is a lesson in itself. And I woke up that day, and it was really confusing at first because and this happened to me a lot. I woke up and I was like, pulled my head up off the pillow. I was like I was hungover. And then I was like, hey, you can't be hungover. You didn't drink last night, bro. Wow. And that happened for a few weeks in a row. I was having these phantom hangovers, like where I would just wake up on a Saturday or a Sunday morning usually, and I'd be like, ugh. And I'd be like, why are you lifting your head off the pillow like you're hungover? Because you can't be, because you haven't drunk for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, right? But I was having, there's something so twisted up inside of me that my body was sort of like expecting to be hungover. You know what I mean? Like it was sort of like expecting to be hungover. And then of course you just wake up and you just like shake it off and you're like, no, I'm not hungover at all. I actually can't be. And go off and have this amazing day. And as soon as that sort of started kicking in, like I was just like, I want to Google this, life without drinking after 1 week, life without drinking after 2 weeks. And I just start reading these articles and what they said about what the science was doing to your body. And then I'd read articles about people who'd gone sober. And I swear to God, I had never read a bloody article about someone going sober ever until I started to do it myself and I wanted to find out what was happening. Then I couldn't read enough about it. I was just like reading. You jump on, you get the podcasts, so many podcasts and different things about sobriety out there, listening to them, going for a walk, feeling great. And that just started to snowball from there. But the main thing for me, I think, was, it was the momentum that I got in my life. And those mornings where I woke up and actually did not have a hangover suddenly became incredibly powerful for me, like just incredibly powerful. And it just, mornings became really, really symbolic to me as a sober person. Mornings became inspirational to me as a sober person because it was just like, hey, here's a new day and it's all mine and I can go and take it. And it was just like, here is a new dawn for me in my life without alcohol in it. Like mornings just became this massively powerful thing in my life. And it was that started to drive me into this world. It was just like, this is the life for me. A life without alcohol is the life for me. It is a new dawn for Paddy. And that was where it went. And I'm careful not to talk about it too much because I know sometimes when I talk about it, I become quite evangelical, and I don't like doing that because I know that there's people who struggle, who don't have this story of, I just said, fuck it, I don't want to drink piss anymore. I don't want to be a fucking alcoholic anymore. I'm going to cut it out and I'm going to move on, because that's what happened to me. And I know that there'll be some people who are just like, I wish I could do that, and it's frustrating to hear someone talk like that. And I know what they're going through because addiction is hard to give up. But that is my story. And when people like you ask me, I will tell you that. And for people who are out there who are struggling, it's like, there is hope. It might not happen for you quite like that, but it can happen for you if you believe in it. And that's not just with alcohol, that's with drugs or fucking gambling, or if you're addicted to your fucking phone, or, there's all of these sorts of things that people are carrying with them, and there are ways out of it, and everybody's story will be different, but that's mine. There was a new dawn for me.
Awesome.
Jeez, brother. I want to say amen, brother.
Amen.
Preach it, brother.
Man, just thinking about the mates that you'd been drinking with and all that sort of stuff. What's it like sharing your desire to be sober, and what was their reaction, and how did you navigate that with a group of friends?
Yep. And again, just such a funny story, because I sort of stopped drinking and I was making the documentary, and I kind of had to keep, because I wanted to reveal it through the documentary that I hadn't been drinking, which was about 6 months away. So there was a few times where I had to sort of pretend that I didn't really tell people that I'd gone 100% sober, and I was just keeping it kind of quiet and private. And, but people knew something was up because I was a massive pisshead and I was usually the life of the party, And, so I sort of had to sort of sneak around a bit and everything like that. And, it was actually the flip side. No one ever pressured me to drink or anything like that. They could see that something was going on, and then they were pretty stoked to see the documentary and that I'd come out, revealed I was alcoholic and had given up. But there's two things in that are really important, bro. The first is, no one put any pressure on me to drink, and I'm really thankful about that, and I'll tell you why. Because I had been that guy when a couple of mates of mine came to me and said, I'm giving up drinking, where I had put pressure on them to have a beer or whatever. And knowing what I've been through now, like, I am so ashamed of myself and I know of 2 occasions where I did this to people that were really, really close friends of mine. And I'm not talking about when I'm 16, 17, I'm talking about when I'm in my 30s and 40s. Where I didn't go, oh, you're trying to give up drinking. Why? Can I help? What can I do? Is there something, can we go and do something else rather than sit around and drink? I'd kind of be like, oh, one won't hurt, that sort of thing, And that's quite a big thing to do to people. So that was number one. The second part of it was I announced that I was an alcoholic in a documentary on national TV. No one else is probably ever going to do that, right? But it had a really big plus side in that everybody knew that I had a problem with alcohol, and it kind of put this massive force field around me. Like, no one offered me a drink. Now, people just bending over backwards, like, see me to come in and they like hide the booze sort of shit, And, like, go around and they put a lock on the liquor cabinet or something, like you're going to raid it or something, right? But the lesson of that was, I just thought, actually, I'm lucky to be able to do it this way because everyone has backed off. But if you're someone who hasn't done it that way and you're just sitting in a normal life struggling with alcohol and you decide to go, I want to give up, it's going to be bloody hard because you've got to tell your family because everybody drinks with their family. You've got to tell your best mates because everybody drinks with their best mates. You've got to tell your missus and you've got to drink with your missus. You've got to tell your workmates. You've got to tell all these people that, hey, I've got a problem with alcohol and I'm trying to quit. And that's actually virtually impossible to do. And that's why if you talk to a lot of people, they'll say things like, oh, yeah, I make excuses. I drink low alcohol beer. I say that I'm training for something. I skip things, etc., etc. They've got to go through this thing because it's too hard for them to say to their friends and family, I've got a problem with alcohol and I want to give up. And they're just surrounded by this pressure. And part of the reason why I talk about it the way that I do is there is not much space in society for those of us like me that have got a problem with alcohol. There's not much room for us, you know, and we just need to make room, a little bit of room for people, if they've got a problem, to be able to go, hey, I don't want to have this in my life anymore, and I just need you guys to give me a tiny bit of room in life. And that's, you know, I hope that by speaking about it the way that I do, that some people out there can feel that they've got a little bit more room to try and do it.
It's awesome, bro. Awesome. And I can guarantee, Paddy, the viewers and the listeners who are listening in, like a lot of men, like you said, they relate to that. And a lot of men go, okay, how did Paddy do that? But I'm still struggling. And obviously the addiction is vast. But just going back to, obviously, your journalism, brother, because you've covered so many high-profile, controversial topics. And so I'm wondering, which one out of those stories have been the most challenging and why?
Yeah, well, I covered March 15. That is by far the most challenging thing to see, you know, mass murder of people on New Zealand soil by a white supremacist. Okay, like, what's that about? Where does that come from? Where do you even begin with that, you know? 51 people killed, not one, 51, you know? Here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, you know, just like that, you just get a phone call one day, or I was listening to the radio and I actually heard that, you know, some people have been killed in a mosque, I'd heard there'd been shooting in a mosque. That was the first thing I heard, that there'd been shooting in a mosque, and I was like, whoa, okay, that's pretty big for New Zealand. You know, maybe in another country or whatever, it's going to be big anywhere, but here, that's big. And you know, and then to go down to Christchurch that day and cover it right from the very beginning, and just you know, it's just everything that I learned, bro. It was all of the grief, it was just all of the different people's stories and nationalities and where they'd come from to get here and what they were doing here, and it was just that big thing. And then it was also the fact that you know, white supremacy was here, and there was this ideology of that one race is better than others was behind it. You know, like, there's just so much going on with that story in my mind that that in terms of actually sort of getting your head around something like that was it. And you know, I still haven't really got my head around it, and you know, some of the things, you know, that I saw and heard while I was down there, and the faces of people that I spoke to. You know, I can remember one of the first interviews that I did down there, and I knew it was a white supremacist that had done it, because, you know, he'd already sent that manifesto and all that sort of thing. So I knew that, but, you know, it was a really, really busy day and a lot was going on. It was on the first day, and I was doing an interview, and I talked to a guy who had seen the killer, and he was a Pākehā Kiwi like me. And I remember he said to me, he pointed the gun at me, and then he just left me alone. And then I just remember thinking in my head, oh yeah, he didn't want to kill Pākehā or white people, you know, he just wanted to kill Muslims or coloured people. And that moment really stuck with me. I was just like, this is fucked up. This is so seriously fucked up. What's going on here? You know, like, what was with this guy just letting the guy go when he's, like, you know, doing what he was doing. And yeah, it's just those little moments like that really, really stick with you. And you know, it's hard to believe it even happened, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Damn, man. So how do you keep yourself sane? Because obviously there's some of the stories you cover, and there's some horrific events and
yeah. Well, one of the ways I've tried to do it is, you know, I try to kind of do stories out of those things that help the people involved. You know, like later on with March 15, they tried to make the movie They Are Us, and you know, I was involved in breaking the story that they had the script. You know, it's going to be a script recreating a Hollywood movie, recreating what happened inside the mosque. It can't happen. You know, families don't want it to happen. They're going to be re-traumatized. So, you know, I try and help by bringing attention to that, and that actually stopped the movie from going ahead. And then, you know, that gives me, you know, I sleep better at night, because I'm like, okay, I haven't just exploited these people or whatever. I've come back and I've helped them. So it's things like that. I try to help. I try to help where I can, and I've found that find that really helps me. But yeah, just it wasn't always that way. I'd often just go around and cover stories and wouldn't really do anything. I'd just cover some bad thing that was happening around Auckland here or something when I was younger, and move on to the next bad thing that was happening, and not really sort of deal with what was going on. But personally, I don't sort of find it psychologically hard seeing these things, because it's not you. It's not you that's being caught up in whatever you're reporting on. It's hard to see, but it's not you. Where it does sometimes get to me is when I can't help people. When you see these people and there's been some sort of injustice, the cops have failed or some systems have failed or something that's led to something, and you want to help them, and you think, oh yeah, if their story goes public, someone will do something, and when it doesn't happen and you feel, I just wish I could have helped you guys, but you can't. That gets to me. Yeah.
Damn, mate. Do you have, because obviously in journalism, do you have restrictions in terms of obviously the stories that you might not be able to kind of open up, so to speak, or open a can of worms? And then you get people nowadays, and then a lot of people who are probably not watching the news, but a lot of people say, hey, mainstream media, we can't trust mainstream media. What are your thoughts on that? We've asked another one of your colleagues the same question, but what are your thoughts? Because you might have a different perspective around mainstream media as to why people are like, oh, I don't trust mainstream media.
No, I totally get that. There's a whole lot of reasons why people don't trust mainstream media, and that's something that we have to deal with. And yeah, I mean, it's hard for me, because I feel when people say they can't trust mainstream media, I sort of feel like my tribe is being attacked. Do you know what I mean? I feel, I hate it when people say that, and I'm like, you're wrong, but that's not the right approach, right? The right approach is, why are they saying that, and what can I do to persuade them not to, or how can I act so that they do trust us, or what are we doing wrong that people don't trust us anymore? And one of the things that I want people to be able to trust me. I want people to be able to trust me, and one of the ways that I do that, I think, is if people see, oh yeah, he's real, that guy's for real, we can trust him, we can count on him. And what it all comes back to, I think, with the mainstream media, is we've lost a connection with some people. Like, we have lost our connection with some people, and it's just like any other kind of connection that you have. When you're connected to something, and it's good. You've got a good customer that comes into the shop, you get connected. They buy, you give them the change, they go with the product, they come back the next day, etc., etc. Like, that's a good connection. If you're connected with your friends, yeah, you got a good relationship. You know what's going on with your brother. It's all good. But when anything like that busts, you're like, well, what happened to that customer? They don't even came back anymore. Or what's happening to the bro? I don't know really where he's at anymore. I think that's the case with the mainstream media. It's just like, well, what happened to those people that used to listen to us? They don't listen to us anymore. You got to go away and figure out why you've lost that connection with the customer, with the bro, or with the people that are meant to be watching you. And for a whole lot of reasons, we've lost connection with a whole lot of people. Some of them are our fault. Some of the things we can't control, like people putting all sorts of crap over Facebook, and you can't do anything about that, or you can only sort of push back on that. But yeah, we've got to accept that some people don't trust us, and we've got to find a way to make them trust us again. And on a personal level, I've got to make people trust me, and they've got to see that my mahi is 100% A-OK, and they've got to see that I'm a genuine person as well. And that's the challenge for me. We lost a lot of people during COVID and around the vaccine, and things got complex. But there's more than that as well. And I'm the first to admit that. Yeah, maybe I was pro-vaccine, and people saw that. But and I haven't changed that stance, but I was too harsh on people who were hesitant about the vaccine. I was too harsh on them, and I've written about that in the book as well. And sometimes when you don't agree with people, you've got to listen to them. And I think in the mainstream media, we're not always good at that, and we should be better.
Awesome insight. Yeah, I love that. What is what do you feel like? It does seem from the way you're talking with what's happened with 3 News, there is a change, and like you've alluded to already, there's a change in like the market and the way things are working now. For up and coming journalists or people that maybe look at what you've done and they're like, man, I definitely enjoy telling people stories, finding out the truth, putting it out there. What advice would you give to them?
Oh, definitely get into it. And, if you want to, for a young journalist, because they'll be looking at this going, what am I doing? Should I get into this or whatever?
I changed my mind.
Holy heck. Yeah. So if there are any left out there, that's right, to the one crazy motherfucker that is still there or something, that's thinking about doing this job. No, they should still do it. And I said this to some the other day, when I started 25 years ago, there was the internet didn't even really exist when I first got into journalism. It's only 25 years ago. It's a long time for some people, but it's not that long, right? And there's been so much technological change, like sweeping through every year of those 25 years, right to the point that, the thing I was in like blew to pieces and like that. It eventually caught up with me. I sort of felt like I was like Roadrunner and the Roadrunner cartoons running and the cliffs collapsing underneath you. It's just like, that's how I felt my media career was, and eventually it like kind of got to me at the end. It's like whoosh, but until then I was like so, but I think one of the lessons I've had is nothing has changed for me in the way that I do my job. And I started off like chasing cats up trees in Glen Innes or something like that. That was my first job on the graveyard shift. I'd go out and the fire service would be getting a cat out of a tree in GI or something like that, and that would be my first thing. And I've gone all the way through. I've made documentaries. I've worked in Parliament. I've done all the leaders' debates, all of this kind of thing. But and the technology's changed all around that, right? But one thing hasn't changed. Someone still needs to get the information off the other person, find out the stuff and tell someone else. Like that is, technology is not going to figure out a way to do that. And technology is not going to figure out a way to connect with people, right? And for media to survive, and it will survive, because someone still needs to go and ask someone, why did the cat go up the tree in Glen Innes? Or why did you have an alcohol problem? Or what really drove what was happening in those shootings, or whatever. Someone's still going to have to find that out and connect with people and then find a way to deliver it. Doesn't matter what's changing all around it or whatever. If people can still do that, and it is a form of magic. Don't get me wrong, it is a form of magic to uncover and recommunicate to people. Journalism's going to survive, for sure. So to young journalists out there who've got that passion for communicating and connecting and wanting to give facts to an audience, like it's still going to be magic for them. Like they are still going to enjoy the magic, and then that's my message to them. The magic is still there.
Cool. Thank you.
So you've finally got 2 people now who want to.
Yeah.
So I'll see you at work tomorrow for your first day of work experience. Yeah. Just bring a notebook. Bring your own notebook.
Oh man, okay, so Paddy. Well, Paddy, just back to the journalism. Who holds the? When it comes to the holding power in terms of investigative journalism, who plays that part of New Zealand society for you as a journalist?
So you mean in terms of investigating?
Yeah, investigating.
Yeah. Investigative journalism is one of the most, important things we've got. It's the hardest thing as well, So, we can come in here and it's good. We can sit and have a chat and create some good content, like we are. Do you guys?
Oh, cool, yeah.
You mean to say yeah?
Cool.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're creating some good content. Yeah, shivers. You're a bit, I was a bit worried there. But we can come in here and we can create some good content, right? But it's not the same as investigative journalism. Where you've got to go away and you've got to find some people who want to talk to you. You've got to find something to investigate. Then you've got to go out and try and uncover the stuff about it and bring it all back, and maybe you've got to put in an Official Information Act request, and maybe you get the information back and it doesn't quite fit, and you think this person's going to talk to you about it, but they get scared and they pull out, or the government puts up the shutters and uses all of its power to block you from finding out more, and you know, there's these people off doing that. They can't just come in here, turn on the microphones, turn on the lights and get going to make some content. You know, they're doing really incredibly hard mahi. And the other thing about it is they might go off and do all of that mahi and work, and then it might get to the end and they might not quite have enough to say it, and it just sort of sits there. So investigative journalism is that you know, it's the hardest part of journalism, really, in that you know, it's really hard and you might not get any end result, and that doesn't. The problem is we really need it. We really need people digging around and uncovering stuff and finding out things that we don't know. But it's really hard to do, and it's really expensive to do because it takes time. And sadly, you know, we've been seeing it sort of fall away probably at the time when we need it the most. But yeah, when it's there and it's good for us. It's cool. Yeah, it's really good for us. Investigative journalism. We need to find a way to support it as much as we can.
Awesome. Have you dug into a story and you think, oh man, if I was to expose all of this is just going to open up a can of worms? Have there been instances?
Oh yeah.
But you're kind of like, no, you can't do this. Have you been in that kind of situation before?
Oh no. I mean, if I've been in plenty of situations where you're like, this is going to open up a big bloody can of worms, and I never go, oh no, I'm not going to do it. I'm get the can opener out. Yeah, get the special extra sharp can opener out with my name engraved on the side, and yeah, let's go. You know, nothing like opening a can of worms.
That's interesting. Then it just makes me think about, like, you know, you're talking about trust before, and I just imagine now that the importance of like integrity and being able to tell a story even if it scares you, or to do the right thing even if it terrifies you. Is that really important for a journalist to have? And if you know, how do you develop those things if you're a bit unsure?
Yeah, and I think it is a really important thing for journalists to have, to be, you know, we've got to be tough sometimes and do something that, oh, you know, actually it's going to be a bit awkward to say that about so-and-so, or, you know, that's going to be a bit gutsy of me to do that, or, you know, and a lot of people don't have that in them, you know, to open a can of worms, or to, you know, yeah, you've got to be a special type of person. You've got to have a thick skin at times and be willing to put yourself out there, or put your facts out there. And I think that is a key part of being in journalism, is sometimes, like, it's interesting. Sometimes being a journalist, you've got to be prepared to make people feel awkward. And as human beings, we don't always necessarily like making people feel awkward, eh? Like, we just want people to kind of get along, and we're all in we don't want to like put some awkward sort of fact down on the table. But that's part of what a journalist needs to do, is sometimes you've got to put something awkward down on the table, and sometimes people aren't going to like what you're putting down on the table as well. And you've got to have something inside you that makes you prepared to do that. And not everybody has that in them, but good journalists do. They know, like, I'm going to make, here is an awkward truth. It's awkward, but it's true, and it's got to be out there. And that's a big part of being a journo.
Cool. That's cool. Who is there a journalist that you look up to, or you looked up to when you were coming up? Yep.
There was a guy, and he's still working at stuff today. His name's Tony Wall, and he was the first journo that I saw when I walked into my first job at the New Zealand Herald. And I just thought he had a leather jacket, and everyone used to wear pastel colours and ties and, you know, baggy pants from Hallensteins and all that. Everyone used to be dressed the same, except for this guy had a leather jacket on. And he used to go out on the streets and do his reporting on the streets. And I just thought he was the coolest guy that I'd ever seen. And, you know, he used to give me lessons on how to talk to people and how to ask questions. And, you know, some of them stuck with me. I remember he taught me early on, he's like, because he used to deal with the cops a lot, and he's like, hey, night train, because that's what they called me, because I was on the night shift. He's like, when you ask a question of these cops, you've got to ask them intelligent questions that they can't say yes or no to. You've got to ask them questions that they've got to answer and talk to. And actually, that is one of the best bits of advice for any journalist, is to learn how to ask questions that get people talking. And that's what you guys need to do in here as well. You just need to ask questions that get people talking. And it seems really simple, but it's something that I use all the time. Like when I'm in the leaders debate, after 25 years of him teaching me that lesson, and Chris Hipkins is on one side and Chris Luxon's on the other, I'm trying to ask questions that make them talk, that make them think, and that make them give good answers. That make their brains work, that things that force them, because, politicians talk all the time, but, questions that make them think, and then you get real answers out of them. And that's just a really good lesson. And I learned that in my early days from Tony Wall. It's awesome.
Cool.
It's cool, man. There seems like there's a sense of rejuvenation.
Oh yeah,
it seems like you like
mandates brought me back, man. Mandates brought me back from deep dark place. Yeah, it has brought me back. Yeah,
it does it.
Saved me.
And I'm not even kidding, Paddy, because you look at you, look at your style. Because I'm so accustomed to seeing you with your tie, your suit, and your new hairdo. Yeah. What's up? Is there some sort of new?
Oh no, well, because you used to get a free haircut at work, but when they shut the place down, that was the end of that. And then I went out and saw how much a haircut actually bloody cost.
That's crazy.
Did you get a money to do it? Was you a money to do it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was out in Southmore the other day. Yeah, I should have popped in and got a haircut. Yeah. I went to Rewa Hard. I tried on the t-shirt and the sunglasses, actually, the Rewa Hard sunglasses. Rewa on one side, Hard on the other. Cool. Yeah, meanest glasses, eh? Yeah. Yeah, it was bloody good out there, Southmore. So, my grandparents, when they moved to New Zealand from Ireland, they moved to Manarewa and built a house on Coxhead Road, which a lot of people will know. And my mum grew up there, so it's an awesome place. And it was amazing to be back in Southmore the other day. I hadn't been there for about 20 years. It's bloody clean, mint mall. I think 70 of the 70 shops are full. Great community, and people who have a certain idea about South Auckland should go and look at what they're doing in Southmore, because they're doing something that the rest of the country can't do. Everywhere else in this country, the malls are shut, empty, dirty, broken down. But in South Auckland, they're in Southmore, it's thriving. So why are we bloody doing stories about ram raids and all this other stuff that's happening, when there's things like that are going on? And what has Southmore got that the rest of the country hasn't, And those are the kinds of stories that I want to get into now. I want to flip the script a little bit, I want to flip the script a little bit.
Mate, do you imagine that you might get some backlash or some opposition around the optimism, your optimism around your stories?
Yes, people will go, you can sort of hear everyone going, he's going to do optimistic, happy journalism. Good fucking luck with that. He'll be back fucking scraping around the gutter sooner. I'll give him 12 months. That's what they said when I gave up drinking piss. They said he'll be back drinking. They were wrong. And I'll prove them wrong again.
Yeah. my man. That's awesome. I just worry, because I always often wonder if journalists, and then obviously you cover a lot of stories, but I often wonder if someone was to cover a story about you, and I often wondered, what would you want the journalist or whoever is covering the story, what is the greatest asset or greatest part of who you want to be remembered as a person, as Patrick Gower?
Good question, bro. And I know the answer to that. I want people, I'd want people to see that I was able to change myself. Like, that's what I'm proud of. I was able to change my ways. And I want them to see someone who, like with my drinking or maybe with my work or whatever, I want them to see someone who chose to be different, from everybody else and found mana in that. Mana and in the ability to change and choose to be different. That's what I'd want people to see.
Cool.
Oh man.
Man, that's so cool. I love everything you've said so far. I'm such a fan of your stuff, bro. I'm wondering, have you written a book before this book?
Nah, man, that's my first book.
How do you go about writing a book? Because that seems like a monumental task. That's
I'll
impossible.
tell you exactly how you do it, and I'll tell you how to do it the easy way, and you just can't tell anyone this. My mate wrote it. This is true. Yeah, no, my friend Eugene, because his name's in the small writing on the inside. So you've just got to do it that way. So it's actually really good. So all I did was I did what I'm doing now. I just talked to him like I'm talking now, and then he turned it into a book. So that's top secret for me. That's your scoop. That's your scoop for Mandate. So my friend was, and he's a journalist as well, and we've known each other for 25 years. And I had the idea and the structure in my head for the book, and what would be in it and that sort of thing. And then he came on, and we worked together. It's called a ghostwriter, and I would dictate a lot of it to him, and then he would adopt my voice and sort of cut out some extra bits. And that was a pretty awesome process as well. It's not as hard as sitting down in front of your typewriter and typing. You still got to reveal a lot of stuff about yourself, but it's not as hard as like banging it out yourself. But it was pretty awesome to work with the brother and do something together. It was pretty special to do it with a friend and share things like we were talking earlier, to be a team and create something. It's not as big a team as you got here on Mandate, or it's not as big as when you got a massive team like at Newshub or 3 News. But it's the same kind of feeling. It's just like, you get together, you create something for other people. And hell of a lot fucking easier than writing one.
Man.
And what's the hope, Paddy? What's the hope? Obviously, your book. What do you hope the readers to get out of that?
I just want people to read a story of a normal Kiwi guy's life and just see, hey, we all have struggles and we can get through them. That's all I want. I want people to read it, enjoy the funny bits, and learn some stuff from the hard bits. That's it.
Also.
Were there things like, when it comes to telling your story in the book, were there things you were hesitant to share where you're like, maybe
not really, because I'd sort of done a bit of sharing here and there down the years, and I sort of talked about problems with my looks at one point. I talked about having a mental breakdown at another. I'd obviously done a documentary about being an alcoholic, and I just knew that there were these things that if I could draw them all together, it would create an even more powerful picture. So sort of knowing those sort of things and just having a lot of knowledge about how to create something like that, when I decided in my mind, I'm all good with this, that was it. It was just full steam ahead. It wasn't sort of like I got to the end and shivers. I'd kind of decided up front what I was going to do, and when I pushed the button on it, I knew what it had to be like. I knew that I would have to reveal a lot, or else there's no point in doing it. So as soon as I crossed that barrier, I'm okay with revealing all of this. It was all go. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. I'm just wondering, with the transition from being at Newshub and everyone being let go and and then now you've pivoted and you're really taking your own personal brand, and now you're able to piggyback off that, and I mean you're going to be doing amazing things. How important is personal branding, maybe within journalism, but I think in general, especially for job security?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and one of the things that has helped me is that I've got a strong personal brand, and I've got my own social media, and people know me. And to be honest, one of the things that's really helped me is that I stood up in the library and some guy said, this is a library, and I said, this is the fucking news, because that's kind of saved my ass, because that's what I'm going to be calling my new news brand, right? So I'd kind of I kind of created my own brand without realizing it 10 years ago, just by sort of saying this is fucking news, and standing in a library. But the important thing of that is, I think, having something like that, it lets people connect with you, and I might connect with some people, they're having a laugh about this is the fucking news, but that means I can talk to them about addiction, about white supremacy, about how we deal with dementia in New Zealand, or about about Antarctica and whether it's melting and climate change and all of these sorts of other things. I can use that connection over here to reach them with the other stuff over there. So not only does it help me survive in a changing media world where I can be my own brand rather than under someone else's brand, which is really cool. And I'm lucky to be able to do that. It also helps me on that deeper, more meaningful level to connect with people. Yeah, because they're like, there's the fucking news guy. He's okay. He swore in that library. Did you get in shit for that, mister? Did you lose your job? All this sort of all of this sort of stuff. But it gives me a chance to connect and communicate with them. And that's why I called the book "This Is the Fucking News," and people will see that in there. It's about connection as well as brand.
Cool.
That's cool. That's cool. So, and you know what's so cool about it, Paddy, because you've been talking about connection. You've just mentioned it several times, and it's so cool. Obviously, in this day and age, obviously there's a lot of race and divisive narratives that have been circulating for some time now. But look at us. We got Paddy Gower sitting in our midst. Pākehā. And you got these 3 islanders, Māori, and so it's so cool that we're able to have the connection. The connection is just so important, and connection and conversation. And regardless of our perspectives or our ideologies or ideas, we can still speak in civil and understand each other and have a good connection. And it's just been an absolute pleasure to have you in our midst, brother.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be here. And it's interesting you talk about all that stuff at the end, because I'm really glad that we didn't talk about that here, because I think we waste too much time talking about things like that at the moment. Do you know what I mean? I think we're wasting a lot of time when we should be talking about other stuff, and that I think there's a real lesson in that for everybody. It's just like, you don't actually need to have all that stuff in our lives, because there's so much other things that we should be doing. So, it was pretty cool that you left it right to the end, brother.
Oh, man, awesome. Man. Awesome, brother.
Hey, Paddy, quickly, with what you've just said, what do you think as a country we should be talking about more?
Oh, I think we should be talking about connection. We should just be talking about, how do we get the economy going better so everyone can just have a better life? How can we make our education system good so that everyone's got some chances? And, and how can we make sure that if we're sick, we can get fixed up? Like just basics, and just being just nicer to each other and stuff like that, I think we just get distracted by a whole lot of other stuff that we don't need to be talking about. And that's why Mandate's been good, because we haven't talked about any of that sort of stuff today.
Cool.
Till right to the end. The brother brought it up right at the end. It's like, whoa, hang on.
ruined the conversation.
Here we go.
Any last questions up, Jay? You got anything else you want to ask?
There is one thing I was curious about, but I understand if it's too personal to share. But just thinking about some of the things that you've gone through, people have gone through lists and found themselves in therapy. I just wanted to ask if it was okay, but has therapy played a part in?
No, I've been in sort of, been to see a psychologist a lot over the last 10 years or so. I don't think there's any shame in people, you've asked very politely, which is nice, because for some people, they wouldn't want to talk about it, but, I talk about it in the book as well. I've seen psychologists a number of times to help with various aspects of the problems that I've been facing. That's a form of therapy that sadly is not available to everybody. It's hard for people to get in to see a psychologist. It's expensive. There's not very many of them. It's hard to get to the appointments at the particular times. I'm sure of that. But I don't think anyone should be ashamed of needing therapy to help them. It should be something that it should be as normal as going to the GP when you have a cold or the flu or whatever. Like, that's the way that we should look at it. Mental illness is just another illness, and a therapy is like going to therapy should be like going to the GP or going to the pharmacy when you've got a cold. And I just wish there was more of it out there, because we know that there isn't enough to help people with addiction. We know there isn't enough out there to help people with mental health problems. I just wish there was more. That's what we should be talking about, why we don't have it enough, rather than whether we go or not.
Cool. Thank you so much.
That's cool.
Wait, one quick question.
Yes.
If you were the Prime Minister right now and you were given all power, what 3 things would you change about the country immediately?
Well, the first thing I'd do is I'd create a new national broadcaster. completely new national broadcaster. I'd give it the mandate.
Come on. That's seriously.
Yeah. And you know, I think something else that I'd do, if I was Prime Minister, would be passing a law, cutting out shit talk. Okay, no one, you know, I don't mean fun shit talk, but I just mean shit talk of talking other people down or other races down or other things down. Just cutting out. We just need to stop talking shit about each other. You know, like that would be awesome. I don't know how exactly I'd enforce it. But it'd be prison time. But it would be a cool law to have.
Oh man! Oh god! Okay, Paddy, absolute pleasure to have you join us.
Yeah, no, it was good to be here, guys.
No, thank you so
much. And thanks for the water as well.
Special delivery,
man.
We ran out the back door and ran to the dairy to give me water. Like it's the only time that's ever happened.
Oh man, hey, like Brad said, the best for our guests, man. So
yeah,
absolute pleasure, brother. But hey, Paddy, we always give our guests a gift. We always do a bit of a caricature. We do have
the water. Nice. Okay.
So we always do an art piece, a caricature or a cartoon of how we envision our guests to be. And so on behalf of the Mandate team, this is for you, brother.
Oh my God. Okay. Woo! I love it. So awesome. Good. Did you do this? Did you do this, bro?
Brother. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Thank
This
you.
is so good.
Thank you for coming.
Straight on the mantle. Cool. Straight on the mantelpiece at home.
Hey man.
Next to the other one.
But, appreciate it, man. Appreciate your time,
man. This
bro.
is so nice, bro. This means a lot.
No,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is awesome.
But Paddy, just before you go on, brother, obviously your book, we want to make sure that
well, we've got to change the cover of the book now. We've got a new image to go on there.
the book. But yeah, no, obviously the book. But is there anyone that you can think of that would be idea to come on the podcast? You think, man, you need to have this person on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't know, because you hit on my number one guest. You're meant to go, oh yeah, who's your fantasy guest for one of these podcasts? But yeah, I think Duncan Garner was good on here, eh?
Oh, he was
amazing, eh? Yeah. So when I saw him on here, I was like, yeah, these guys are good. Because, you know, I heard a lot from him. He was a good friend of mine. I hadn't heard a lot of the stuff he was saying until he was on the Mandate podcast.
Wow. Oh.
So yeah, just get him back for round 2.
Hey, you know what? Maybe you could get a tag team, you and Duncan.
Yeah. We'll come on together, but you guys won't do much talking.
Appreciate it, Paddy. But Paddy, we always give our guests the last words. Any words of encouragement for our viewers and listeners, brother?
Yeah, I think I've given a few in this, but what I'd say for your viewers and listeners would be this: life is for living. Don't waste it.
Oh, nice, awesome. Please don't forget to subscribe and look forward to your well thought out comments. And as usual, brothers,
refine,
unlock, and take charge.
Mandate.